Hello. Can you hear me over there? I can't tell if it doesn't look like you're muted on your side. There we go.
There we go. So, see, I followed all the instructions.
How's it going?
Oh, good. Now I feel like I should do a whole bunch of these because I worked so hard to get this going.
It's a lot of work to kind of present it and everything like that, right? So I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want me to share my screen, right? Do it. Is the lighting okay?
The lighting is beautiful.
Okay. See, that's all you're doing.
Huh? Yeah, go ahead. If you fire it up, I think you can do that as well.
Yeah, I can't.
I think Marcine's on with us. Hi, Marcine.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm doing not too bad.
How's staying at home and everything going for you?
It's 6 weeks in, so I've settled in.
I think so. I think by now everybody kind of is settled in a little bit more, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yes. I actually kind of prefer it.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard people say that.
If I could have 1 or 2 days in the office after this, that would be perfect.
Like 1 or 2 days a week, you mean?
Yep.
I'm Dawn, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Well, you did a lot of stuff from home anyways, though, didn't you, Marcy?
Sorry?
You did a lot of stuff, and you worked a lot from home already, didn't you?
No, I worked at Nutrien, and I went to their office, but I was essentially remote in the office. So my teams that I were dealing with were mainly in Saskatoon and Loveland, Colorado.
Okay.
So I easily could have worked from home, but at that point I preferred getting in and going to the office. And now that I've got my office set up at home, I think that will change.
I think so too. I think a lot of people are going to go, that's one of the things that's going to really, really change when we come out of all this, is the fact that everybody's working model. And, Dawn, I'm sure you see that quite a bit too in your travels, right? Where it's like a lot of things are going to change. It's going to be very, very different as to how things look going forward.
Well, in 1997, when I was pregnant with my daughter, IBM moved my job here from Ottawa. And it was great because when you're pregnant, you like to take a little kipper in the afternoon. So it was great. But when the kids were grown and they were around all the time, I didn't really like it because working at home. But now my kids are grown and gone, and it's kind of nice again. But I do like the office. I do like putting on makeup for this right now. It's like, I hope I do a bunch of these things because I don't want to have to do this every day again.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting if you get all the facilitators who are doing all this, just kind of see, okay, what's everybody got on top, and then what's everybody wearing, like sort of kind of waist down type thing. I'm sure everybody could be a very, very different dynamic, that's for sure.
Yeah. I usually try to dress not necessarily like the way I would in the office, but I'm usually in some sort of casual pants and a nice top.
I think getting the whole idea of, getting up and doing that routine, especially when you're working from home, getting up, showering, being at your desk at a certain time, I think that's really, really important for success, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly helps. All right, we got a few more people on. I see Tanya's on. Notice that Matthew joined us as well. So we'll just give everybody another minute or two before we get the ball rolling.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Good to see you.
I don't see you, but there you are.
Yeah,
how's it going?
I'm good. I cannot complain.
It's fun to see everybody sort of where they are, and et cetera, like we were talking about, kind of how things work from home, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of different dynamics. I've seen animals and kids and all kinds of funny little things that happen in the background, which is kind of fun. So which is good.
Well, have you noticed that sometimes when you're having a meeting now, if the kids around, people are like not even saying I'm sorry, or because everyone has it's going on, right?
That's it. Yeah. You know, you get cats meowing, dogs barking, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of, you
Mhm.
try and avoid it as much as possible, especially for, seminars and sessions like this. But I think there's a certain amount you can't really get around. That's for sure.
Exactly.
That's good.
So can you hear me okay without my headphones? I was just going to talk like this.
Yeah, I think that's great, Don. We can kind of, what I'll do is I think I will, since we're just at 2:00. I know there's, when everybody else joins in, we'll just welcome everybody as they come along. Again, my name is Kevin McPhee. Want to welcome you again to another session for Taleo Connects. Today, I'm very, very pleased. I have one of the people that is going to be facilitating today is one of my favorite people, and I respect her and admire her quite a bit. So that is.
I'll e-transfer later.
Yeah. So, but this was a lot of fun preparing for all this for us, and it was a nice sort of journey. And I know that it's something that's very, very important and prevalent these days. And how do you sort of transfer your work identity, and what does that look like yourself? And Don is the perfect person to do this too. Just to remind everybody that you are eligible for a half a PDU for attending this session with us today. And also that we do have a YouTube channel called Taleo Connects, which I will be including in subsequent meeting invites. And we will be recording this session, so we'll have that up there too if you want to pass it out or share it with any of your friends or anything like that, or people that you feel might be beneficial for it. So thanks again for joining us, everybody. And without further ado, I'm going to pass everything over, pass the reins, as we say, over to Don. So thanks for joining us, Don, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for that introduction. That was unexpected and most appreciated. So welcome, everyone. I don't know about you, but I get lots of invites for these kind of things, and so really thank you for making the time today. So we're going to make it short and sweet. We're going to introduce you to some things that are prevalent right now, but actually can be applied at any time. So we're going to talk about shifting working identities, and I'll define a bit what a working identity is in a minute, and an unconventional model that I was introduced to in 2011 when I went back to school to do my master's. So I actually was 20 plus, let's say, years in IT, PM, BA, senior BA type work. And then I realized that running projects was a lot more difficult, not just because of the frameworks, but the people dynamic side and the customer and stakeholder dynamics. So I went back to school and I studied psychodynamics and clinical approaches to management. And I ran across this really great professor, Herminia Ibarra, and she wrote this book, I think it was 2003. So it's been around a while. It's a working identity, reinventing unconventional strategies for reinventing your career. And at the time, when I was reading it, I was thinking, we're supposed to look out the window and talk about purpose, but this is an applied model I'll walk you through today. So the structure of the session, we're going to talk for 20 minutes, and then we're going to have 10 minutes for Q&A. And I think it's a small group. Is it, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty intimate. We also had an idea by Laurel and Karen. Karen's our business manager, and Laurel's Sim is one of our partners, to give away 2 copies of Herminia's book for the 2 people who either ask questions or have comments at the end. So the first 2 that have questions or comments at the end will receive via Amazon a book. So stay on the line, as it were, and Karen will get your information to send it to you. All right, so let's get going. Identity shifts. When we start reflecting on who we are, there's a lot out there on purpose, and a great local Calgarian who does excellent purpose work and is an author, and I don't know if he's joined us because I did invite him to come, Richard Bucher. He's fabulous, and he does a lot of work around your purpose and finding your purpose. This session is not that. We're talking about the right tool for right job. We're talking about identity shifts professionally. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to introduce you to this unconventional model, but the way I'm going to do it is to use a case study. And I'll introduce that case study in a second, and then we'll have questions. So these slides will be available. How, Kevin? How will these be available?
I can. I'll send them out to everybody as well. So anybody who wants them can send me a quick note, and I'm happy to share them.
Okay, super. All right. Why we're not exploring purpose? Purpose is essential, but it's not useful for changing working identities. It's fine for moving from job to job if you're a PM over here and you want to be a PMBA over here. Reflection is good to know what your baseline is, like what your benchmark is, what you need. But an organizational purpose is another thing altogether, and we're not discussing that today. Such things such as conscious capitalism. We have various ways now of measuring standards and values within an organization. We're not going to talk about that either. We're going to talk about action and experimentation. And I'll tell you why we're going to do that in a few minutes, but we're going to have some fun first, and we're going to talk to Kevin. We're going to talk about how we become unstuck and seeing ourselves in our current identities and things that are preventing us from moving forward. Okay. The model will emerge as we talk to Kevin. Kevin, I don't know if you guys knew this, Kevin McPhee, who is our fearless moderator today, he spent 4 years as the general manager of the famous River Cafe. He had a very prestigious position there. I actually got to know Kevin at the time before his current working identity and his previous working identity as general manager. And because my daughter worked for him, coincidentally. So he started to feel after 4 years, I mean, it's quite taxing. It was a prestigious position, but it was quite taxing. He was working a lot, and he started to say that maybe this lifestyle, and it was a lifestyle, wasn't really for him. So let's talk to Kevin a bit about that. So Kevin, were you comfortable in that role and your identity as a GM?
Yes, the role itself was great. It was something that I enjoyed. There was a good buzz. I was working in such a busy environment, and I was quite comfortable in my role as the GM over there.
Now, when you started to explore with your, you had a feeling. What triggered that feeling then?
It was a lot of different things. I think, I realized from a professional perspective that I really couldn't climb the food chain any more than I already had. It was getting repetitive. I could kind of point, click, and shoot. There's always ways to improve in every organization, but I felt, I kind of hit the pinnacle of what I was doing. And I started to get a little bit restless. And I think also too, it was, it's an interesting industry and a lot of fun, but also very taxing, very time consuming. Challenging, being away from my family. So those were the initial kind of drivers to kind of get me thinking about, okay, making a change.
Now, did you know at that time, I mean, in retrospect, you say, okay, oh yeah, I really wanted to be a BD recruiter type at Taleo. You could say that now, but at the time, had you considered an identity similar to the one you have today? A working identity?
No, not at all. I think just because of the fact that my sort of hospitality background was so prevalent, and it's pretty much what I had done most of my life, it was something that the next steps were almost very daunting. As you get a little bit older, you kind of realize, where else can I work? What else can I do? What are my options? And the initial first steps were quite. It felt like a big uphill battle. That's for sure.
Did you go back and look at, did anyone tell you to go back and look at, so what is it you want to do? What is your purpose, Kevin? Do you know what your purpose is?
My wife did a lot of that as well. And I think it's a challenge because, doing that soul searching can be a bit overwhelming at times. And once you're still in the crux of your business and what you're doing, it's hard to see what is next and how to go about it. I think that was the hardest challenge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did your current restaurant network friends and the suppliers you dealt with and the friends and the customers that you had, well, let's actually talk about the restaurant friends. Did they help you discover your new working identity?
No, I think that was part of my challenge, was because it was very niche group, and I think it's probably like a lot of organizations and industries everywhere, not just in Calgary. But they were sort of focused on what they were doing, and everybody was at their own sort of spot doing their thing. So whenever we got together, we spoke about restaurants.
So how did it come about then that you explored this role? Like, how did that come about?
It was kind of a nice little, almost divine intervention in some respects. I had known Matthew Hillhouse, the partner for Taleo, for quite a number of years through, he was an acquaintance of my brother's. Got to know him over the years. We always kept in touch. I knew him as a friend, and I knew what he did and everything like that, but there was, we always kind of kept our feelers and everything like that as to what we were doing with each other. But I would also start exploring a little bit more with the clientele that used to come in. Instead of just making sure that their guest experience was top notch, I would dig a little bit deeper as to, what do they do? What is it their job involved? So in that sense, it was quite nice because we had a good clientele to kind of chat with as well from that respect.
So would you say that your current network that you have now in your professional new working identity, or your current working identity, I should say, could you say that that was a different network than the one that you had professionally before?
Oh, complete tectonic shift. It's 180 degrees from the people that I used to deal with.
Okay. So a lot of what Kevin has experienced, it's great actually, because it makes my job a lot easier explaining this model in 20 minutes, because after all, it is a book. So we're taking a slice of this that I think is relevant and accessible to you today. So Ibarra's model has to do with aspects of working identity that you currently have, what we do today, the company we keep today, and our story, past and present. So while purpose becomes part of this, it's not as applied as Ibarra's model. Ibarra also thinks of, goes back into the realms of education. You all know this, even if you're project managers, PMO managers, IT executives, business analysts, you know that experiential learning, doing, is the way we learn best. So and I'm just being a bit facetious here, by staring out the window with a cup of coffee, pondering your existence is not going to get you where you need to go to transform your working identity. It just will not work. So she suggests, and she has proven, there are many case studies in this book, and I've just shown you a case study now, that crafting experiments and executing those experiments, either as a volunteer role or, as I have done, taking very different roles from IT in the past 7 years. So I do still have this IT identity, but I also do strategy and international business development work. I do executive coaching as well. So I crafted those experiments, and then through either my current network or a new network, started seeing what I could either A, earn money doing, B, be happy and not earning as much money, because sometimes you have to make those shifts. And also another thing with Ibarra's model is your existing network will not get you a new career, as Kevin has demonstrated. And so we have to find and create catalysts for change and create a new story for ourselves. Of course, this means our immune system starts to engage, right? We're talking a lot about immune systems lately, and we know how they work. And when we started facing with change, we go, oh no, I can't do that because, and I've heard it a lot with my own friends, and you've heard it with your own friends. Oh, I was offered this new job, but I don't want to manage people. And those things are legitimate and fine, but they're also going to occur as you start executing these small experiments. So just want to Kevin, did you feel that way when you started talking to Matthew about a potential new working identity? How did that feel?
Initially very daunting. You know, I'm my root cause and heart is kind of adverse to change. And I think like a lot of people in some respects. So it was a bit overwhelming as well.
Absolutely. And then the financial side of it, right? Like how, what liberties and liabilities do we have? So we have to look at that when we're creating our model for catalysts or shifting working identities. Fear of failure. We don't have to tell you about that. And the older I get, the more fearful it gets. But I always say to myself, once a year, I do something that scares the blank out of me. And I try to do that every year. So awareness, we mentioned that earlier, awareness of your own immune system. And that's attacking your desire to change and knowing that that's completely normal. And then understanding what your current narrative is, your idea of yourself and your idea of your new self. That's a bit of purpose work, but a current applied narrative. And actually, and if you're in a family situation or if you have a partner, it's good for them to sort of be on board with that too, to support you or tell you you're nuts from time to time, because that can be useful too. And you have to feel really comfortable with uncertainty. So when reality shifts, we imagine a new self, and so what we're suggesting here with this model is take concrete actions, craft those experiments. I can come up with ideas like Kevin at a dinner party, for instance, started exploring. I've done volunteer work to explore. I've taken on a bit of pro bono work to explore, or taken on work that I probably would have charged a lot more for, but I wanted to see if I really wanted to do that, or if that's something that fit. Because when we look out that window with our cup of coffee, we are biased. We are positively biased. We will only see happy paths. So we need to see the underbelly with these small experiments. And we have to make sense of that new environment and that shift from our current environment. We have to make sense of that. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is experientially. So again, identities in practice. Yeah, there's some accidents, luck, and reimagination that is up for in this model. But as I said earlier, we do have to get comfortable with discomfort. And visionaries, it's always good to choose a visionary in the field that you might be targeting to help you see beyond your current identity. I was at an international conference last week online, very interesting. The CEO of EXO Consulting, amazing speaker. I was really interested in how she attacks organizations of over $1 billion and does a huge exponential change with those. And I called her, and she's in Australia, and we spoke. I just asked for 15 minutes, and that's all I took of her time, because I just wanted to get her perspective with very large organizations and change. So there are things you can do to reimagine that identity, or that's a small experiment I was doing. Those of you who know Agile, you guys have gone, if you're an oldie like me, there's waterfall, now everything's Agile, and the stand up and the backlog grooming. And this is sort of what we're talking about here. We're talking about plan and implement, and then readjust. So we're not talking about plan and that huge phase of planning, then execute, and then the stakeholders not remembering what they asked for 6 months prior. This is an iterative process. And notice as well that there is a bit of a myth with the true self, that you can go down a rat hole with that. It's good work, but it's not work for this particular shift that we're talking about today. And admittedly, implementation isn't easy, and support is key. That's how I would sum that up. So Kevin, are we okay for time?
Yeah, we're looking good.
Okay, so will we open up for questions? And remember, if you have questions or comments, to first two people, you get a book. Thanks for listening. And if you disagree with me, I'm completely happy to entertain that. So Kevin, will you moderate the questions?
Sure can. Everybody can kind of jump in if you want to send. You can either put up your hand or just open up your microphone. Go ahead. And then also too, if you'd like, we can throw some stuff out for on the chat. So there's some ideas and everything like that. If everybody wants to kick anything in, you're more than welcome to. I'm sure there's going to be a few questions. Again, not everybody's going to agree with what Don's saying. I know. I guess I can get things started a little bit, Don. And you and I spoke when we were talking about this. It's, again, it can be, when you get started for this, and actually, no. Oh, yeah. I always ask a question. Matthew has a question. Please go ahead, Matthew Hillhouse.
Oh, is my video working?
It is now.
But Don, I think you'll love the fact that my 8-year-old has been sitting through this whole presentation too, and she's quite interested in hearing what your thoughts were, weren't you? So it was great.
Oh gosh, that's great. Does she have any thoughts to share?
I don't know if you do, but I do have a question. When you talked about the visionary and picks someone who's represents what you may want to drive towards, do you have any suggestions on how to make sure you pick something that's relevant so that sort of it's effective? Like if I said, oh, I want to be like Bill Gates, I don't think that's really gonna help.
I mean, you could argue, I've been coaching my son actually for a long time, and he called on Chip Wilson and went hiking with him. Chip Wilson, the guy who founded Lululemon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he called on him and went hiking with him. I think, take a business page out of the business playbook and call high, see what happens. I mean, my son also called Jeff Bezos and got in touch with the VP of business development for Amazon Web Services. So, and had a conversation with him. So, I think if you ask a person for 15 minutes and you ask them, what is your reality? This is what I'm envisioning this to be. Is that what it is? I mean, if that's what it is, or it can be as simple as a neighbor who is in that realm, and you're saying, can you explain to me? I think it's this, and I think if I were to do this, what else can you see for me here? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Hey, Don, I was going to ask, one of those things like one of the things you always talk about, when you're trying to do a new career and everything is you talk about transferable skills. So when somebody's trying to get started with this is how do you evaluate that? Like, how can you say, okay, let's talk about what am I good at? So where do you get started with how do you figure out what your transferable skills are and then translate them into maybe what a next career could look like?
Yeah, so I mean, you can do a skills inventory of yourself, right? Or get a friend to help you with that, or even a coworker, like a skills inventory. Or you can do it. I'm not saying you sit down with a spreadsheet. I'm saying you yourself have a list, and then you just explore it with others. You don't get them to fill in the spreadsheet, of course. So you can do a skills inventory and do a comparison and a bit of a gap analysis. I mean, I've done that before. Applied my skills as a business analyst and I think they're perfectly fine. I think a lot of the tools that we use in analysis in IT are applicable to this sort of exploration as well. But just as we have explorers, we had to fund those explorers. Even Columbus had needed some cash, right? So I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's a model that has proven by research to be effective. Does that make sense?
It does, and also on that is like the next thing is and one thing that you and I spoke about a little bit is when do you know, like when do you know you're ready for a change? What would you say would be like the kind of top 3 signs that it's like maybe it isn't the right time for a change in career? So what in your opinion is like, okay, what are those things that you should be looking for in yourself to make that change?
I would go back to the myth of the true self. I think if you have an idea, try it out. I think that if we spend too much time wanting that sign, and you're going to make mistakes, but that's good because you'll learn from them. but that sign that we're, you know, oh, I don't feel, that myth of the true self, like is on this last slide here. Um, it's not useful for what this is a shifting working identity. That's what I'm saying. Yes, I'm sorry. Like I have tarot cards, but you know what I mean? It is a bit like that myth of your true, like what is your true self?
Mm-hmm.
Your true self will change, right? Like, or you'll feel that it will change.
And I'm sure that changes just depending on what, you know, where you're at in your career and where you're at in your life as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And please disagree with me, guys. Like, if you think I'm, you know, that's fine. That's what this is for. And you get a free book out of it, because I don't think Kevin and Matthew were eligible.
I think it's also just interesting too, like you say, when you talk about, you know, the coffee cup and staring out the window. I think depending on, there's not a lot of people I would think that might work for. I think, you know, you kind of have to get in and get a little bit dirty, and there has to be a fair amount of trial and error as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Trial and error. That's exactly what the research suggests that works.
Well, and nowadays too, there seems to be there's so much out there that you can sort of jump into, and you know, like where do you follow, like are there certain things that you do specifically to kind of, you know, reinvent yourself even now, and you know, like or even like what are your top couple of things that you like to do and look for in new groups, I guess you could say? Is there certain things that are out there that you follow or?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I, you know, I joined my alumni group, of my master's. I joined that group, and I'm active. Yeah, I do things. That does expose me to new business things as well, because it's an alumni group. And what else do I do? If someone suggests something to me, like an interview with another company, I might just do it to experiment, and I might not want to do it at all. And but I do it. You know, so the funniest thing is last September I was named to the board of the Royal Military College of Canada. You know what people ask me all the time, why did you get named to that board? I think because I do unconventional things. I don't necessarily have one identity, and you can see how others are uncomfortable with me having multiple identities as well. That's probably a byproduct of what you might experience if you change your working identity.
Marcine here. I'm
Hi.
wondering, with the unusual times that we're in right now, both from the virus pandemic standpoint and the commodities crash, do you think this would be an easier time or a more difficult time to do that kind of thing? Like, are there more resources out there because so many people are wondering what they're going to be doing?
I think there's a lot more free courses. There's a lot of seminars like this, and I think that's and I'm just thinking, I haven't researched this, so I'm telling you from my own opinion. I think my experience has been the past few weeks is if I'm reaching out to a stranger, they're more willing to talk to me. I don't know why that is. And I'm not trying to necessarily change my working identity right now, but you know, if I want to talk to someone like that woman this week from Australia, she's a CEO. She's got no reason to want to talk to me. She's on Wall Street and living in Sydney, Australia. But there was one aspect that I was interested in, and I said I want 15 minutes of your time. And I don't know if that would have happened 2 months ago, Marcine. I don't know. And I think, yeah, I mean, we got the 1-2 punch in Calgary, right? So
Right.
If you're reimagining yourself, I think people are more open to it than they were 5 years ago. When I came back from France after my master's, and I really wanted to just do coaching and org development work, and I had this IT background, people had a huge problem with it. One guy said, "What are you practicing, voodoo?" I mean, so so you know, it's not. Again, there are going to be people that will become uncomfortable with you doing the work, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think reaching out is the problem. If you
Okay.
just say, "I'm really interested in your perspective on," but just like I told my son when he was looking for work, or I tell other people, even if you want a job at that organization, when you talk to them, don't lead with that, right? Just, you know, be curious about them. I noticed you did X, or, and that's how you build that new network. Or again, like Kevin did with friends, that he normally wouldn't have reached into that realm, but he did.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we're just coming up to the bottom of the hour, so I just wanted to let you all know that it is 2:30. So we do want to keep ourselves on check, just to make
Okay.
sure that everybody is good. So again, thank you so much, Don, for joining us today. I know that we're going to be seeing you next week as well, so we'll be sending the next week's Taleo Connects webinar out shortly. But
So
again,
I have to put makeup on again next week.
yeah, exactly. Unfortunately. Or no, you don't need it anyway, so you're fine. But again,
Marcine will get the book, right?
yes,
Yeah? Okay,
absolutely.
Marcine, do you want to just give your information to Karen, or Karen, will you contact Marcine?
Karen
First off, good recovery, Kevin, on the makeup comment. I like that. And Marcine and I already shared information because she's one of our awesome consultants. So I'm pleased to send that out to you.
Just a last little note, since Karen popped on, it's her birthday today, so there you go.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Working away, just a short little.
I have some great emails and texts from everyone. So I'm glad everyone was able to pop on to the webinar. And thanks, Dawn, for.
Okay, thank you. Namaste, tout le monde. Yep. Thank you.
Again, everyone.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Thanks for your time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. And you
Okay.
get to shut her down since you're the host now there, young lady.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to press the red button. Take care.
Thanks, Dawn.